I am back. Kind of. Okay. Where do I begin? Obviously, for fans, very loose term, who may have noticed that I've been out of the YouTube game for quite some time. Yes, I have taken quite a break. Long story short, in early or late 2021, I suffered a bit of a tragedy. My entire house got demolished. My apartment got demolished in a flood, and me and my family were displaced. I'm pretty sure I documented it to some extent on this channel. If you want to go back, you might find some stuff to that. I'm not over it, but I don't think anybody could ever really shake something like that, or at least not so soon still. But I admittedly suffered from a bit of depression after that, and I thought I was ready to bounce back into YouTube. I was doing YouTube like once a week, making videos, doing interviews, all that jazz. I don't know, I had a hard time kind of coming back to it after my initial break. You may have noticed that over the past few months, even a year or so, I've posted some really big interviews that I was particularly proud of to this channel, but I haven't really done any reviews since about this time last year. I think my last official review on this channel was for The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, which is a great movie. If you haven't seen it, check it out. If you haven't seen the review, check it out. And yeah, I think I'm back. And I'm thinking about the irony of me doing this for this movie, and saying that because that's what the character says, notably. Yeah, I'm thinking I'm back. I wasn't so sure how I would do this. I always knew that I wanted to come back to doing YouTube, but I wasn't sure what movie I would do it for, when I would want to do it. Last month, for those of you guys who don't know, I moonlight as the editor-in-chief at the Diz Insider. Great website. Shout out to my buddy Skylar, Derek, Nick, and the rest of the team there, Amber, Jordan. You guys know who you are. I did a review for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which I thought was fantastic, and it got the bug going again. It was quite spontaneous for me to do a video review, but after I did it, I was like, oh man, I miss doing this. So I knew more or less then that I was like, okay, I think I'm ready to get back into this. But I didn't know, once again, I didn't know how, I didn't know when. And then I saw John Wick this weekend, and I've not stopped, or have not been able to stop thinking about that movie. The movie's incredible. I'm going to get into it in a second, but I feel like I can't really start this video fully without doing my thing. And if you would allow me to do so, I just want to say, hi, I'm Dempsey Pilot, and this week, I'm reviewing Now, John Wick Chapter 4 was directed by Chad Stahelski, once again, and takes place immediately after the events of John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum. It follows the titular assassin, played by Keanu Reeves, as he traverses the globe once more in an attempt to clear his name and be absolved of his sins by the shadowy organization known as the High Table. Ian McShane, Laurence Fishburne, and Lance Reddick reprise their roles from the previous films, while franchise newcomers include Hiroyuki Sanada, Donnie Yen, Bill Skarsgård, Scott Adkins, and Shamier Anderson. Now, as I said before, I've not been able to stop thinking about this film since I saw it, and I am very well aware that there might be things I say in this review that some other people have said, or you probably have seen elsewhere, but I could not help but want to talk about how excited this film got me about the future of cinema. And I feel like I said this in my review for Everything Everywhere All at Once as well. You know, sometimes the things we see in our head that we can't figure out a way to execute and bring to the big screen, which they did, you know, like, just look at the editing in that film, the prime example. I feel like this film does that again. Like, there are action sequences here that I cannot comprehend how they did them. Like, the best way to describe the action in this film is inconceivable. Simply inconceivable. There are just so many different scenes where John Wick is obviously killing people, they're fighting him, but the choreography is so insane that I can't imagine having that kind of brain to be like, oh, I need this to happen here, I need this to flow into flow. Like, I say all that to say, like, the stuntmen in this film, like, deserve all the awards. I know there's no Oscar category for stuntmen work or stunt work in general, but, like, we gotta figure it out, because this is a level of filmmaking that is literally making people like me excited again, and it deserves to be recognized on every level. Like, there's this great setup where obviously John Wick is being chased by these bad guys, but prior to these bad guys looking for him, they're testing out all their weapons, and there's this cool gun that this one bad guy tests out, and we're like, oh man, John Wick's gonna feel the brunt of that. But then the film kind of subverts your expectations, because John Wick ends up not getting the brunt of it. In fact, John Wick ends up getting his hand on that weapon himself, and then it's not enough just to see that gun used, but to show us inside of a house, from an eagle-eye point of view, John Wick using that gun on everybody. The last hour of the film is just pure adrenaline. It was very reminiscent of, like, watching Mad Max Fury Road. You know, if Mad Max Fury Road, which is described universally as, like, one long car chase, I feel like this film is just like one big action sequence. It outdoes everything that I think the third one set out to do in the best ways possible. There's literally like a sequence that takes place in the most unexpected location possible. And even when it was starting, I was like, how are they going to pull this off? Hint, it's stairs. And we all hate going upstairs, right? Unless you're Rocky for some reason. And if you think going upstairs once is hard enough, this film really has an answer for that. That's another thing I will say. And the way in which Chad Stahelski and Keanu Reeves and Donnie Yen, man, Donnie Yen is a star in this movie. It is so... The one thing I will say, and it's not a con, is he's blind, which I feel like we already got a blind Donnie Yen in Star Wars, but it's like a totally different character from what we've seen. And he kicks ass on a totally different level in this movie. But yeah, like, the last hour, pure adrenaline, pure cinema. I'm so excited. I'm at a loss for words. To go back to what I was saying before, like, there are things in here that I would never think that somebody else would think to be able to execute in film. And this, like, if there's one thing I will say about this film, it's like it's a pure testament to the still infinite possibilities that there are out there. And it makes me excited to think, like the next generation of filmmakers who watch this, they're going to be like, I want to outdo that. I think I can outdo that. I'm going to outdo that by doing this. That is what this film is all about, I think, anyway. And I know it's one thing to watch this film and be like, the action is entrancing. But there's a really cool thing that this film does. It's a device, but it's a character at the same time. There's a character in this who goes by Nobody. I think he's referred to as a tracker, but he's played by Shamier Anderson. Phenomenal actor. I've never seen him before in anything, but I want to see him in everything after this, because he, alongside Donnie Yen, stole the show. And he's really cool because, and I'm partially taking his words from this because I saw him in an interview prior to seeing this movie where he said that his character is essentially the audience, because he knows certain things about John Wick, but at the same time he's learning things about the world that John Wick inhabits the same way that we are as we watch the film. And he's got his own kind of arc in this. He's out to get John Wick, but not for the reasons that you might expect. But anyway, he's really cool because he reacts with us And that's kind of the best way I can say it. Because in addition to, like, being on the sidelines for a lot of this and interacting sometimes with the characters, there's this great sequence at the end where we're watching things happen. We're watching John Wick do these things, and he's reacting to it. It's very meta, but it works. I love this film, obviously, right? But I still had a problem. And it's not so much a problem with the film as it is with the franchise. Personally, I think this film is great. It's perfect. I would go as far to say as it's perfect, but it suffers from a problem that all of the other films also suffer from, and that is the fact that in each story, we meet all these fascinating characters who seem like they have such rich backstories, right? Willem Dafoe's character from the first one, who rewatching this, I could not remember that he was in it, but he has such a fascinating arc in the first one that you're like, oh, I want to know more about this guy. John Leguizamo also appears in like the first two films. Very interesting character. He runs the car garage where John Wick's car is sent to. If you've seen the movies, you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? Laurence Fishburne is the Bowery King. Halle Berry's character from the third film. This franchise is so good at giving us these rich characters who help flesh out this world that still seems kind of new to us. Like, I'm still not even sure how the John Wick universe works, because it feels like everybody in it is an assassin. Here's a pitch for a movie. I would love to see a John Wick film from the perspective of somebody who has no idea what's going on. Like, there's another great action sequence in the movie where John Wick is fighting at a nightclub and people are just still dancing. And I've seen memes of it. You probably have seen the memes too. People are still just like fist pumping in the club and like just people's heads getting chopped off. I would love to see a movie told from the perspective of someone in that situation. Somebody who just happened to see John Wick kill. Or who continues to see all these assassins. Like, if you gave me part 3, but told from the perspective of a totally normal person who's seeing all these people go after this one guy, that might be worth exploring. Just an idea, though. But like I was saying, it feels like all of these characters are being established so that we can return to them at a future point in time. It feels like we're building up to like an Avengers level team of some sort. That John Wick is going to have to go back to these people or rely on them at some point in time. Yet we have yet to get that, and it feels like it's building somewhere. But I don't know where that is. And once again, I just want to emphasize, like, it's not a problem I have with the film, but more so like it's a symptom that the film has that the rest of the franchise suffers from as well. And we kind of get a post-credit scene that tells us where things are headed. It kind of gives us an answer as to what you should expect next, because obviously you can't follow John Wick forever. That's just, I would love to, but inevitably, they could run out of steam. I say could because, like, even though it's inevitable, every time they've made another film, they just up the ante. And I'd be down to see John Wick end up in outer space someday, somehow. I don't know. Obviously, I love this movie. I think it's a masterclass in both filmmaking and storytelling. It really pulls a lot of plot points from other films into focus here. And there's a lot of character development, not just for John Wick, but for Ian McShane's Winston character as well. A lot of things we learn. There's one thing I think the final thing he says in the film that caused me to question everything and every interaction he's had with John Wick so far. So I think there's still a lot to be explored with his character in particular, and I think they are exploring it in like a prequel series at some point. But I say all that to say, like, this film is excellent on every level. It is everything I think a film should and could be. And I know that's a bold statement, but watch the film for yourself, and you will understand exactly what I'm talking about. And with all that being said, I'm going to give this film 5 stars. Yeah, I'm thinking I'm back. Guys, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to view this video. It really does mean the world to me. If you're new here, please feel free to subscribe. I'm going to try and post content on a more regular basis. I can't say if it'll be weekly or bi-weekly. One thing that I think I am going to post more of or more frequently is interviews, but not all the interviews that I do will be for stuff that I necessarily review here. I do like written reviews for other outlets, so if I'm able to get a video interview, I might throw that on here. Just stay subscribed and you'll be in the know. In all, I'm just really happy to be back. thank you all for staying subscribed after all this time of inactivity. But I really just feel good to be back, and I just want I'm rambling, so I'm just gonna go. But truly, until next time, which will be soon, I promise this time, I'm Dempsey Pilot. Take care.